All right, good afternoon. The Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, is in Bangkok today, where she spoke to the opening of the 6th Asia-Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. In her keynote address, she said the government in the regions have taken the challenges of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development with decisive leadership. But the Deputy Secretary General cautioned that rising inequalities in the Asia-Pacific region have become a major obstacle to accelerating progress. The annual forum brings together senior government officials, the UN, the private sector, and civil society. The Deputy Secretary General will be returning to New York on Friday. And I want to just update you on the UN's efforts to respond to Cyclone Idai. The first of 3 planes carrying relief items from the UN Refugee Agency landed early this morning in the Mozambican capital, Maputo. The supplies, including tents, sleeping mats, mosquito nets, and solar lanterns, will be distributed to 30,000 people in Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe. UNHCR's emergency teams are being deployed to all 3 countries to support the response. For its part, the World Health Organization is providing supplies to treat diarrheal diseases and cholera, and it is helping to set up 3 cholera treatment centers. WHO is also putting together a search team to send to Mozambique of more than 40 people with expertise in logistics, epidemiology, and outbreak prevention and response. Back here, Rosemary DiCarlo, the head of the Political and Peace Building Department, briefed the Security Council on Syria this morning, saying that after 8 long years, horrendous years of suffering by the Syrian people, the conflict seems far from over. She said the Secretary General has watched with great concern the situation in Idlib deteriorate in recent weeks amid escalating violence, which has caused civilian casualties, and the further displacement of tens of thousands of people in the northeast, she added. The UN is strongly encouraging international diplomatic efforts to ensure that military escalation is avoided at all costs. Any escalation in the northeast could lead to devastating consequences for civilians and could create conditions conducive to the re-emergence of Daesh. And Ramesh Rajasingam, from the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, told Council members that the UN assessment indicate that 11.7 million people require humanitarian assistance and protection inside Syria in 2019. More than 5.6 million Syrians live as refugees across the region, and he added the scale of humanitarian needs in Syria remains staggering by any measure. Earlier this morning, the Security Council members also heard a briefing on the Council's visit that took them to Mali and Burkina Faso, and in the afternoon they will discuss Somalia and Lebanon. Jan Kubish will brief the Security Council on Lebanon in close consultations, and he is expected to speak to you at the stakeout afterwards. Turning to Yemen, the Special Envoy for Yemen, Martin Griffiths, took part this morning in the first day of the Yemeni Women's Conference entitled Mediators for Peace, which was organized by UN Women in Amman, in Jordan. Addressing the opening of the conference, Mr. Griffiths stressed the important role of Yemeni women in reaching an inclusive peace. He highlighted the contribution of the Women Technical Advisory Group, which worked closely with him during the Swedish consultations and will continue to work with him in the upcoming rounds of consultations. The Special Envoy expressed his hope to see increased women's representation at formal level in future consultations. We have to walk uphill with regard to women's inclusion as well as to other issues, he said. Meanwhile, at least 7 civilians were killed and 8 injured following an airstrike yesterday at a hospital near Kitaf district in Sada Governorate. Reports from the area confirm the insecurity is making rescue efforts difficult, and 3 days ago, one of the main public hospitals in Taiz City was forced to close down due to significant damage from intensified fighting. Lise Grande, the humanitarian coordinator for Yemen, said today the parties which resort to arms are required to do everything possible to protect hospitals and health facilities. This is not a voluntary commitment, she said. It is a fundamental responsibility. And tomorrow at 12:30 p.m., the Secretary General, along with the President of the General Assembly and the Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, Dr. Petteri Talas, will be here to brief you on launch of WMO's State of the Global Climate 2018 and an update on extreme weather in 2019. This will replace our noon briefing, and the Secretary General and the PGA will take a few questions before letting Dr. Talas keep the room. Also wanted to flag that this Friday, on the 29th, there will be a peacekeeping ministerial meeting here in the General Assembly. Government ministers from around the world are expected to reaffirm their commitment to UN peacekeeping and discuss concrete ways to work towards strengthening performance and protecting civilians in the coming year. The Secretary General will deliver remarks at the opening of the meeting, as well as we told you yesterday. He will confer the UN Military Gender Advocate of the Year award to Lieutenant Commander Marcia Andrade Braga of Brazil. The meeting will be open for you to follow. I'm done. Excellent. All right. Go ahead.
I have a question on Venezuela. Yesterday, it was reported an alleged attack by colectivos against some of the assemblymen. They were going in their vehicles. Within that group was Juan Guaido. Is any reaction by the Secretary General in terms of the rise on tensions there? And the second part is President Trump met today with the First Lady, the wife of Guaido, and he sent a clear message to the Russians in terms of that they should be leaving Venezuela after reports of airplanes arriving, and also the confirmation by Venezuelan government that they are assisting them bringing humanitarian aid according to the Maduro government. What is the reaction? I understand.
Sure. We continue to express our concern at the situation in Venezuela. I think yesterday or 2 days ago, we expressed the Secretary General's position on the attacks that were seen on the opposition. I think it is important that we see a lessening of the violence, and that political actors, both inside Venezuela and those who work outside and have an influence, should also do whatever they can to calm the situation and to push for a dialogue. Thank you. James.
Just to follow up on something you were asked about yesterday, and I accept your answer to the specific question about a tribunal for those that have been captured, the ISIL fighters. Right. But there is a problem here in what to do with those prisoners that the SDF are holding and say they can't cope with, and there are literally thousands of them. Is this something where the UN really should get involved or in trying to find some sort of solution, given that the countries of origin won't take them and they can't cope with them, and these seem to be people who may have all sorts of information as well as could be very dangerous?
Sure. A couple of things. One is that there is an existing Security Council resolution that focuses on foreign fighters, and we would encourage member states to use that as guidance. The issue of also issues of the families of foreign fighters needs to be dealt with within a human rights framework. And of course, I think every country is entitled to do whatever they can to ensure their security. But there will need to be accountability for those who have committed the most horrendous crimes. But again, we would encourage Security Council member states to use the existing Security Council resolutions as a guide. Yes, sir.
The question is about Colombia, Stéphane. And is there any concern from Secretary General about the Minga mobilization, the indigenous mobilization in the state of Cauca in Colombia?
I don't have anything. I do not have anything for you on that particular issue today. But let me see if I can get something.
Yes.
Thank you.